stories making rounds in the dailies, and of course, leading us through conversations. In the studio this morning, we've got our very special analyst. We've got Mr. Tunde Okufi. Good morning, Tunde.
Morning, Friday.
How's it going?
Not bad. Morning, Shopper.
Morning, Cindy.
All right, and we've got Lakunle as well in the studio. Good morning, Lakunle.
Good morning, Shopway. Good morning, Cardi. Good morning, Lagos, and the rest of the world.
All right. Yes. So
Hey,
if you're out,
Luckily.
all right, if you're out there and you want to be a part of our conversation, our talk this morning, feel free to send us messages. Send them to 0809-444-0981. That's our WhatsApp number. Also, we're taking messages on Twitter and also messages on our Twitter, basically, and on WhatsApp platform. Real quick.
Yes, and make sure you go. We are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. Make sure you go over there and leave your messages on that platform as well.
All right, let's jump into our first story. It's from the Punch newspaper, and it talks about fuel subsidy crisis. Now, this story comes to you today. It talks about the states. So the headline says states kick as NNPC continue deductions. FAC meets on Wednesday. Now, to put a background to this, there are strong indications that the state and federal governments are again on a collision course as the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee holds its first meeting in 2022 on Wednesday. So, Tunde, what do you make of this?
Okay, so
Because they're saying there's a crisis. What is this crisis?
well, obviously, I mean, if you put your hands in a man's pockets, obviously there'll be a crisis, right? Which is essentially what the state governments are saying. They're saying, I mean, we know that FAC is that's how, quite simply break it down, that's how money is shared to the states, so you can look at it as, that's how the national cake is shared. People have all sorts of comments around that is the process via which we typically sustain unviable states, right? Now, so obviously that's states' money, and the states are not happy that the federal government are making those deductions, especially as I think Akin Oyebode, who is the Ekiti State Commissioner for Finance, says
Yes.
it's not transparent. It's not a transparent process. Obviously, that is problematic. One, deductions are being made. Secondly, they're not transparent. And what are these deductions for? Deductions are for fuel subsidy. So fuel subsidy, once again, rears its head. It's a bit like a game of whack-a-mole. Every time you think that fuel subsidy is gone, it sort of pops its head again. It rears its head. It's been given different names, in recent times. But the truth is, in some way, shape, and form, the government still is subsidizing, the price of fuel, and that process is fraught with a lack of transparency.
When you say lack of transparency, I mean, how do you mean? So, I mean, is there supposed to be like a list of people that's paid? Is there supposed to be a list of amounts that's given out? So, I mean, because now you're saying that the state governments are saying that it's not, a transparent process, and they're also saying that it's the federal government's responsibility, yes, to take out subsidy, but then again they should make it open and transparent for all to see. What should be done in this regard?
Well, there are myriad of things, and quite simply, if something should be more transparent, one, it is, you said X amounts were deducted. Who were they paid to, like you said?
Okay.
Right? Are we able to validate and verify these individuals? Now, the data that those companies, that the recipient of the fuel subsidy monies, what was the breakdown? Did it actually translate to subsidies to the people, for instance? That's the opacity. That's what's been missing in fuel subsidy payments from the beginning. And why many people complain that fuel subsidies kept ballooning over the years.
So for all we know, it could have been inflated by another person, as opposed to.
I mean, it's not new that fuel subsidy payments is bereft of corruption. There's corruption in it, if you understand what I mean. And
Okay.
it is a huge drain and sink pipe on the nation, right?
Okay.
For the longest time. Let's say compared to the rate at which it was going before, it's been sort of brought under control because it seemed to be growing totally haywire at some point. But truth is that fuel subsidies still exist. Now it's been deducted from the FAC account. The state governments have complained and said, look, payment of fuel subsidies is a federal government activity and at the prerogative of the federal government. Why deducting it from our accounts? That's the that's the crux of the entire
So
story.
if they were to resolve this situation, because we always like to talk about solutions now. I mean, what can be done? So the government is saying, okay, they want to take away this subsidy, but at the same time, they want the governments now, the state government to put the people in check, so that when this is done, there are no strikes. There's no. So what can be done to resolve this situation?
If I was in government, elect me. Look, really and truly, I think, and people sit on both sides of the fence. I think regarding subsidies, the government probably just needs to bite the bullet. Yeah,
Take it all out.
they should take it all out, bite the bullet. There will be, and this has always been the argument. What's the argument for fuel subsidies? Well, if we remove fuel subsidies, there'll be an increase in inflation. Life will be really difficult on people. What was inflation last year? Yeah, if you look at food inflation alone, it was over 20%, nearing 20%.
So
When you look at inflation in general, it's about 17%.
Cindy, the
So we
question
haven't
being-
prevented it now.
we haven't prevented it,
So,
but won't we see a spike in that?
Yeah, let's see the spike, and then hopefully it normalizes. Guys, I'm trying to say that it's not been rosy or beautiful anyway. So why don't we remove
Why not just
subsidies
take
and
it out?
see what it is?
Nakul, you want to
Yeah,
quickly react
there's a
to that?
difference between beautiful, normal, and downright ugly.
Let's see.
I want to
ugly
quickly
it
react to
gets.
that.
I mean, like Tunde said, it's something that we just have to do. It's going to be difficult, and then maybe that then will wake us, the people, up to follow the money, know what they do with the money at the end of the day. It gives an excuse when you say government is not doing enough. They can easily tell you, I am doing enough by paying subsidies on the fuel you consume. So maybe if they take it out, and then we can ask them, okay, so you've taken that, we're responsible for it 100% now. So the money you have, where are the roads? Where are the hospitals? Where are the universities? Where are the polytechnics? Where is this and that and that? And then maybe that's where we will now sit up to be able to actually ask the right questions.
All right, our analyst in the studio advocating for ripping that band-aid off, saying that pain will make us change. What say you? Make sure you send your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 981. And of course, you can go over to Twitter, where we are using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 to read your messages. And we are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, where you can also leave a comment on the live stream. All right, so should we read messages or go to another story?
Let's head on to our next story.
Okay,
So,
our next story coming in from the Premium Times. Illegal refinery civil defense anti-vandal unit disbanded in Rivers after Wike's accusation. Now, the Commandant General of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Ahmed Audi, also ordered the immediate suspension of the head of the unit in the state and directed the personnel involved to report at the command headquarters in Abuja for further investigation. Going on to say in a statement by the Civil Defense spokesperson Olushola Odumasu on Sunday that the swift action taken by me is to close any identified gaps in our operations and service to the nation. I will not tolerate any act of indiscipline, compromise, or sabotage under any guise. Now, this, of course, comes after the governor, Nyesom Wike, of the state on Friday accused the civil defense team in Rivers of aiding and abetting illegal oil bunkering in the state, also ordered the immediate redeployment of the head of the team. Now, this is a lot of development has been coming in on this issue since we've seen the governor taking this really tough stance on it with just a little time to his tenure left. He's trying to make a change. What say you about this, Akon?
The background to this event is the black suit thing
That people are
that's enveloped,
wiping off the
what are
insides of their
called-
noses?
Yes, for more than 5 years now. And I think that it just got to a head, and the governor, I saw a few videos for most of last week where the governor had been to several places, and one that he was ordering local government chairmen to submit the names of all illegal refineries in their domains, that they can't be local government chairman and just sit down and do nothing. I saw another one where one of them was ordering that one civil defense man be disarmed. There's so many videos about the whole activity all over the place. Now back to this story. It's a shame that bodies and organizations set up to maintain law and order are the ones being alleged to be involved in these illegal activities. That has to be said. The civil defense is set up to complement the work of the police in maintaining peace and order. And you recall a few years ago when the matter of arming them came on board, people said, no, you cannot arm this. But the excuse given them was that the men were being killed because they were not armed because of the jobs they were supposed to do. Now they were given arms, and they have now turned around to use those arms and everything to protect criminals. And in this story, the governor also accused a sitting DPO, a divisional police officer, for operating an illegal refinery as well. So now he's requested that they be transferred, which is all the power he has. He can only request. So if the IGP or the Police Service Commission refuses to transfer the GP out of Rivers State, there's nothing he can do about that. That has to be said. Now, the SCDC man, is it that the squad, the anti-vandals squad, the setup, is it that it was not useful, and that it was because it was not useful that the men got into these legal activities that he says it should be banned? I think that if it was useful, what should have been done should just enough withdraw the people that has been identified to be involved, replace them, let them continue the job they were supposed to be doing. But now it's an outright ban, which means that there's nobody to do that job of preventing vandals anymore. So sometimes I think that when you are at the top of and you have authority in your hand, it's not always the ban, destroy, burn, and so on and so forth that should be the first element in your powers to be executed. And that's what he's done. So between now and whenever the investigation of this man, now also part of the story, also thing to mention is that now he's ordered this man to come to Abuja. So that means that it's become a black hole in terms of investigation for people in Rivers who have requested for his transfer, who has identified him, the head of that thing, of the group, has been involved in this. So whatever they say in Abuja is what comes back to them in Port Harcourt. Whether the man is going to be fired, handed over to police for prosecution, or redeployed, or whatever, it's a black hole as far as we in Rivers are concerned now. So it also comes back to the same thing that we've always said at this table. We need to decentralize our security system. A system whereby you have one man sitting in a remote place and ordering that somebody who's committed a crime in another part of the country be brought to the center for investigation is not going to be transparent. And we need to look at this thing. While we say that everything has its advantages and disadvantages, we'll go back to the same. You see, this problem will happen in another state. The same thing will happen. We'll get a redeployment, and that will be the end of it. Does it solve the problem? It does not solve the problem. We need to tackle these things. It's not enough to just come on the radio and TV and make all these blank and bold statements. Let us see it being actioned. So the man has been transferred to Abuja. Let us follow the story. Let us see it to the end, whatever happens.
All right, we've got your messages coming in, 0809 444 0981. This message in from Gilbert says, Gilbert Musa from Festac, who says the removal of fuel subsidy should be a phased approach, a gradual process to prevent full-blown aftershocks. It's also important that we strengthen our institutions to ensure that we reap the full benefits of the removal of the fuel subsidy. Altien Kabulu says, says Alakanle's statement that he doesn't agree with your statement on the civil defense arms usage and how they're using it to protect criminals. Going on to say, you see, this illegal refinery racket and even the illegal crude bunkering and all is an organized crime, which almost all the security outfits are involved in, not just civil defense alone. So let's generalize it, says Yinka.
We're actually talking to the NCDC right now, so it's best to keep it to them. That's what.
All right. Also, this one from Sheka says, Wike is just waking up to the suit matter in the twilight of his regime. Well, it's better late than never, 2023 loading. But let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, Sunday, and it talks about bandits. It's from the Vanguard newspaper. It says, bandits targeting and killing our male children in Zamfara. Jamfa worrisome. This is according to Rep. Gumi. Now, the story says member of the House of Representatives, that's representing Gumi, federal constituency of Zamfara State, Honorable Suleiman Abubakar, has decried that the recent killings by bandits in Zamfara State, saying that it was worrisome that they are now targeting and killing their male children. Now, according to the story, if it goes deeper though, there are parts of the story that talks about how bandits, have gone into the communities, they've taken out male children, they've started killing them one by one at different points in time, different parts of the village. What do you make of this?
What I make of it? The state of insecurity.
We've seen this too many times. There's a back and forth about it, and it's reared its ugly head again.
Yeah, not again. It's constant in some parts, Cardi.
Okay.
So that's the unfortunate thing. It's stories like this, and killings and banditry, and the loss of life due to banditry has unfortunately become a Nigerian story in certain parts of the country, and is constant. The headline, I think the headline makes a bit more of, the targeting of male children than the story itself does. Because, he then does go on to describe general insecurity within the state, talking about, the loss of one life is important, not to talk of,
56.
Mass killing. So it talks about a situation where 56 people were killed in one day. He does say, it seems like they're targeting the male child, which is particularly strange. Usually they try to recruit them into so that is particularly strange. But we also have to highlight that everyone suffers from this in times of conflict and crisis. Males die more naturally because they're viewed as either a threat or they're recruited into the war. But women and the girl child also suffer quite significantly. This is again, it's all the sound bites are there. They shouldn't be happening. We need to end this. But really and truly, what are the real things? The recurring themes keep popping up in the story. Talk about the military being overstretched. The police can't be everywhere. There's again talk of they need to arm vigilante groups.
Which is where I'm going with this now. So now you've already said it. Now you mentioned the military being overstretched and police not being everywhere because we don't even have enough police officers. So do you think at this point in time that maybe since it feels as though
I see where you're
these
going.
people in the states are helpless?
We already have the JTF.
We do. But then again, it also feels as though they're helpless as well.
Is it no? It's not just. It's the civilian. What was it called again? I forget. I think the civilian JTF. The civilian, essentially vigilante group that works, with authorities in conjunction with authorities. So there is already, civilian or self protection in place. Now, can they formalize that a bit more? Can they expand that a bit more? There always are the concerns when we constitute and arm groups that are under the control of a state governor. Do you understand? Those concerns will always be there in terms of how they then deploy and or use them. Now, if it is if we're not being cynical and this is for the purpose of defending the people against bandits, then and 100%. Haven't we been told before that Nigerians should arm and defend and protect themselves? So essentially, it's an extension, on that. It is unfortunate, but it is an also common story in certain parts of the country.
And you don't think that? Well, so in one word, if I hear it correctly, essentially, you don't think that the vigilantes should be armed? Because
No. That's why I said there are already examples of that. So yeah, if it look unusual, and it's an unusual problem for us. It's not a unique problem, but unusual problems require unusual solutions. So go ahead.
All right, if you're out there and you will share the same sentiments as our analysts, feel free to reach out to us and let's have that conversation. Also, we're streaming live on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smooth981fm. And also, we're taking messages on Twitter as well with the same hashtag, freshlypressed981. And your messages come to 0809-444-0981. Let's take a few messages first. This one says, I wish this government can listen and decentralize the police and other security agencies in Nigeria. What we have today is not working, and this is a message from Nedu. Emeka also says, should Nigerians apologize to former President Jonathan that removed the subsidy some time ago, but was robustly resisted by pastors and politicians? Okay, Talking about Tunde. Okay, okay. I see where you're going with this one. And this one here says, for several months, it's if not years, guys on the radio have advocated that the federal government label the bandits what they are, terrorists, and that has been done. So it's sad to see that we're still calling them bandits still. Okay, and the maker comes in to say the civilian GTF is only functional and recognized in the northeast, Borno to be precise. They need to replicate that in the bandit-infested Zamfara and Co. All right, thank you for that, Mika. Let's see, up on our YouTube platform as well, we're taking messages there and also on Twitter, but let's get back to the stories.
All right, from the Guardian newspaper, we have this one. Rumored 1 week sit-at-home anxiety grips Southeast. Now, this is due to the fact that IPOB had earlier declared and enforced a total lockdown of the zone on days that Nnamdi Kanu built to appear in court as a mark of solidarity. And well, this week is going to be an interesting one because he is billed to appear in court on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of January in continuation of his trial at the Federal High Court in Abuja. But the group, in a statement yesterday, said it only called for a sit-at-home on January 18th, which is tomorrow, in order to honor Kanu, who will be attending his court trial on that day. However, this did not stop residents from stockpiling food and supplies for the period over the weekend. They were out in droves, apparently. And it's quite interesting to see IPOB coming back and kind of walking themselves away from the issue that has now developed in this area and saying, oh, it's not us, and calling on the government to now deal with criminals. When they started this, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Last week, we said something similar to this. Don't forget that before now, the idea was from IPOB, every Monday was supposed to be a sit at home. And some people have somehow hijacked that Monday from them. So expectedly today in the southeast of Nigeria, everybody should be at home. Yeah, expectedly. Because some people have hijacked it from IPOB, who says we have suspended this Monday sit at home since September 2021.
But people coming out and saying in all the different public
Exactly.
platforms, we're still being targeted for going out.
Yes, exactly. That's not the problem. Now, the second bit of it is now that IPOB maintains that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is going to be in court tomorrow 18th, Wednesday 19th, and Thursday 20th, and that they are choosing only the first day of his appearance to sit at home to honor him. Now, people who have heard you say we're no longer enforcing Monday, but you are not able to make it happen, now hear that you say let's sit at home on Tuesday, and they know that the demand will appear in court on 2 other days after. What should be the expectation of you, of those people? They will sit at home for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Yeah? Which means that people now, like you said, have stockpiled food. Don't also forget that there are Nigerians that if they don't go out of their house in one day, they will get hungry. People who feed on daily day-to-day basis. Now, are those the kind of people that want to that you think or we think we entrust the leadership of the southeast of Nigeria to the leadership of IPOB as it is today? There is a mistrust already. IPOB has created something bigger than they can cope with, because obviously now it's been hijacked, yeah, by some other group, which they claim, as that's what IPOB claims. There is another group that is hijacking their earlier position.
They're saying that
That they are out of
unscrupulous people.
exactly, and now asking government to come and arrest or whatever to stop those people from terrorizing people. Now, it's a lesson for all of us to know that when you want to make an action, always starts with the end in mind. And I think that that's what IPOB didn't realize at the beginning. And it's now a mountain for them to surmount, to convince people that they are not the ones. Many people will not be convinced that they are not the ones doing this, okay? But as it were, would also call on the security people as well again. It is your job to maintain law and order. Please let us have a situation in the southeast of Nigeria where people can go about their lawful daily businesses unharassed.
There was a point at which people in the region, almost their whole week was just taken up by one form of, having to stay at home or another.
Apparently, this week is going to be another one.
My goodness. Well, we'll see what economic and social activities for the week look like. We will keep you updated as the week continues. Of course, we want to get your thoughts on these topics. Do make sure you send your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 981. Benga Akamu says, when will IPOP tell their enforcers to stop attacking people in the East over these lockdowns on Mondays? That's something that we have just covered. Let's see if we can get another story in before the end of the show.
This one from Vanguard talks about the NDLEA. They say NDLEA intercepts 1.5 million tramadol tablets, other drugs trafficked from Lagos to Kebbi to Kano. And this comes to you, Tunde. So, I mean, we've talked about how it feels like we have we have a drug problem in this country. We see a lot of it happening in the northern part of Nigeria, and we see the story here talks about this one moving from Lagos to Kebbi and down to Kano. And it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight with this situation. But what do you make of the story?
Yeah, I don't want to localize drug problem to certain parts of the country, but I mean maybe certain types of the drugs are more popular up north. So psychedelics and pharmaceutical. How do you describe now? Prescription drugs, typically what be prescription drugs are a lot more popular up there, but we have a drug problem across the country. So it's an interesting story because it essentially gives a viewed picture of what the current state of play of drug trafficking in the country is, and it's a mix. So it's prescription drugs and pills. There's cocaine and heroin coming in. There's cannabis. The part of the story that is surprising is is the cannabis. Not importation, because we know we have a lot of capacity for growth here, and when there is importation, I mean in neighboring countries. But what really surprised me was the attempts to export cannabis to the UK and the US, especially considering that those nations grow cannabis, and in many parts in the US it's now legal as well. The UK, it's not legal in the UK yet, but you can get a license to grow and export in the UK. So it's quite surprising that that there are actually operations to export to the UK. Maybe the strain that we have, I don't know. So I found that interesting. It's a problem we need to tackle, especially the more destructive ones like cocaine and heroin, and from cocaine you can make crack cocaine, which is a lot more addictive and a lot more destructive, right? So again, it's drugs, and the drug problem is one of those that has an impact on the not just the youth but the productivity of any nation, right? When large sections of the pop culture, it has many attendant issues and obviously costs for the nation. The health problems, there's an increase in crime. You can't, gain food. It becomes a lot more difficult to become productive. And I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about hard drugs. Let's leave cannabis aside.
But real quick, I just want to point this out there. So we see in bus parks in different places, as Lagos as an example, people consume these things publicly, right? And it feels as though nothing is done about that. So, I mean, on a larger scale now, how can the government checkmate this situation and make sure that, they nip it in the bud totally?
And by the way, we also have to say not just the lower end, the higher end of as well, society as well.
Exactly.
So we can learn from what's worked and what's not worked there. And I think a classification also of drugs is important, right? So for years, I mean, if you look at drug wars across the world in the West, for years they spent. I mean, there's a time alcohol was prohibited in the US. Look at that. You prohibit something, you make an industry out of it, and you make some criminals, very wealthy. Some nations have moved away from criminalizing certain types of drugs,
especially those with medicinal purposes.
Exactly.
As well.
They've moved away from that. So, and in a country like ours where we don't have limited funds, we don't have the kind of funds that other more powerful nations. We probably need to be more strategic in how we fight certain things. The ones we should fight, the prescription ones, the crack cocaine and heroin. We need to break down the capacity for importing those into the country,
and
because we don't produce them, and distribution.
All right, thank you so much, Tunde. We wish you had more time, but we're totally out of time. But there's more to come. Well, as far as the show is concerned, we're totally out of time for Fresh 2 Press 91. But hey, what can we do? There'll be more conversations in a few more minutes on Lagos Talks 981. But you can find our analyst up on social media at Big Hoops. That's Tunde Kufi at Big Hoops across all platforms. Yes,
You can say Twitter again now.
and on Twitter as well, and also Laconly70. Yes,
Yes.
Laconly70 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere you can find
Everywhere.
it. Everywhere you can find it. We'll be back in a short bit for Leaks Talks 981.
You first. First bang.
That thing always gets me. I think we need to lower that.
Was